Hi everyone, and this is just going to be a short video on modeling with datum planes within CREO. And the example item I'm going to use to demonstrate this is the angled block you can see on the screen through here. So let's jump into it. So if I bring that over to the side through there, and I've got an instance of CREO with my working directory set, I just want to create a new part, and we'll simply just call that angled block underscore block. And then go OK. So the working drawings for this particular item are also on Canvas. So if you want to have a crack before watching through this video, yeah, please do so as well. But I'm going to go through and essentially start to model this particular block. So the first thing that we want to do is I'm going to come to my front plane and then click on extrude. So if I bring this back across through here, so what I'm going to do is I'm essentially imagining my front planes going through the center of the object through here. So I'm going to sketch this side without that round, and we'll add that in using the round tool, and effectively extrude that sort of shape outwards to 40 millimeters. So let's jump through and get into it. So the first building block that I'm going to come through and do is I'm going to do a center rectangle. And then from the center, I'm just going to build out a rectangle, and that's going to be 45 millimeters in length. And it's going to also be our 8 plus 5. So again, you can do the maths in your head or simply just let CREO do it. So our 13 millimeters. So bringing that back across. So what I've effectively sketched there is I've got the 45 millimeters here, and then I've got the 8 plus 5, our 13 millimeters for the height through there. So the next section I'm going to do is essentially this angled little back section here, which is 27 millimeters by 8 millimeters. So I want to do the opposite of that to basically cut that little triangle away. So using my line tool, I can simply go through in free space and have two lines like that. And then our dimensions effectively going to be from that point to that point. Clicking back up, that was our 27 millimeters. And then from that point to that point, selecting out there, that's going to be our 5 millimeters. And then using our delete segment tool, delete that line, and then center click out. And sorry, we missed that little bit there, and get rid of that one, center click out, and now I've got that first little bit of a building block. So the next stage, so I've got that sort of shape through there. So the next stage I'm going to add in is just simply this little rectangular section, which is 5 millimeters. And then we need to do some maths here, so it's going to be 20 millimeters in length because we've naturally got a R20 at the end. And then it's also going to be 15, the little flat section there, the extra 15 millimeters, so our 35. So to do that, we now go through to our corner rectangle, and I can just go through and create that sort of building block there. So again, this was our 5 millimeters, and then we were pretty close there. That's our 35 millimeters. Then go to my delete segment tool again, delete that one for our overlaps, and now we're shaded pink. So now we can go through and go OK, and our width of that is going to be 40 millimeters. So 40 millimeters there. And again, we're going to use, because we do want some of our planes later, I'm going to go through and go symmetric about that front plane, and then go OK. And that's our first essential building block. So if we bring our drawing back across, so what you'll see is we've actually got that radius 20 section out this back end here. So what we'll do is drag him off. We'll just simply use our round tool there. So I want to set a circular round to be 20 millimeters. And then if I click that edge and then holding the control key and click that edge, it'll give me that rounded section. And the reason I held that control button is I want this, what we call the set. I want both of those edges to be in the one set. So again, this is to become a little bit more efficient. If I need to come back and revise my model, I can just physically update one rather than having to click through a whole list. Then I go OK. And then we've got that top section through there. Okay, so most of you should be fairly comfortable with the steps that I've just done there. So the next step that we want to do is the actual plane itself. So what you need to do is you need to create a datum plane that is 30 degrees from this flat section through here. And that's quite important because when we sketch off that plane, you want everything to meet up flush with these two particular surfaces. If you tried to extrude that outwards and use some side sketching and the like, you'd probably maybe get away with it, but it's going to be very, very clunky. So what we'll do is we're going to create a plane. So to do that, we come up to the tool here and click on plane. So your click operations are quite important here. So what you want to do is you want to select that edge first, then holding control, select that face, and you'll see that an angle's come up. And then I can drag that through. So 0 degrees is going to be with our sort of flat reference, if you like. So then what we want to do is, in this instance with our notation, it's gone into the reverse. So we just want to go 360 minus our 30, or just simply enter in the 330. And that's given me a plane, which is 30 degrees from this point through to that flat surface. And then if I change that back to 0, you'll see that it's actually just parallel effectively with that flat surface. So the other way you could do it is go minus 30, and it's going to give you the same result as well. So if we go through and go OK, I now have my plane. So you can see that that plane, which is in your model tree as well, Datum 1. So that Datum plane is what I now want to extrude off. So coming back through to here. And what we're going to actually do is we're going to go through and basically model this shape up off that plane, and then use the 2 reference extrude button to go down to this surface. So bringing that back across through there. So I click through and go extrude. So what we have here is we've got our main circle, which I want in free space, and that is 24 millimeters in diameter. And from that back edge, which we need to create a new dimension, so from the center of this to the back edge here. So if I rotate around, it does look a little bit odd, but you can see I have selected that back edge. So clicking this button to get back in my sketching plane, and then center click out. And that one is 54 millimeters. Okay, the next building block that we're going to have, again, I'm just going to simply use a circle here, drag that one out to about there. And then that one will be a 30 millimeter. So on the drawing, if I bring that back across, it's an R15, so I've just simply doubled it to get my diameter. So that'll be our 30 millimeters. Then what we want to do is with some lines, and again, this is where the automatic constraint, so it's assumed I want to be perpendicular around that center point, which I do. And we just simply drag that down, center click out again, and you'll notice that I've got that little symbol there, which means that this line is a tangent to this circle. So that's exactly what you want. So if we do the exact same on the opposite side, and you'll see that little tangent symbol's popped up again, and then snap and make another line there, center click out. And you'll notice that it's, I guess, the inverse of what we were expecting in terms of the shading, and that's because I need to delete this segmented line out here, so it's not a closed loop sketch the way I want it at the moment. And that's also indicated by those 2 little red sections as well. So if I use my delete segment tool, and delete those 2 lines out, then center click, now it's the shape that we want. So if I bring that back across, so you'll now see that I've got that inner hole and that sort of outer geometry which we're trying to do, and because I had my plane set up, that's at that 30 degrees already. So we're almost there. So if I now go OK, so if I just simply flip that, it's going to go through, and if I try to get that edge to line up with this particular edge like it is in the drawing, you can see I've got all this material underneath it, which isn't correct. Okay, so if you have a specified depth that's just touching the tip through here, it's naturally not going to look right because we've got all this material underneath. So what you need to come through and do is click on this tool up here for our depth, go to reference. So you do need to be careful here. If I do select this top reference, you'll notice that it isn't extruding. So what you actually need to do is you need to think a little bit about your model of where you want the material to meet through, and you actually want to click this bottom surface, and you'll now see that it's created that. So what's happening if I click this top surface, this angled section through here, CREO's not quite liking what's going on there. So, but if I click through to that bottom surface, it's now created that particular block in that one operation. Another way you could do it, which is a little bit clunkier, is you could click that line through there and then have to obviously model the material in here, which isn't efficient. But if you click that under circle through that under surface, sorry, through there, it's going to give you exactly what you want. Then we go OK, and you can see that that material is married up with those sides really nicely. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, which is our last component of this particular item, are the 4 holes that you can see on the screen through here. So you could use the hole tool, and the notation that you've got here, it's 4 lots of an M4 by 0.7, which is a 4mm thread, which is 10 millimeters deep. I'm just going to simply use an extrude for this example at a 4 and assume it's 4 millimeters in diameter. So as we get further through the course, I want you to start obviously modeling the DNA in the model, as I like to call it. But for this particular exercise, because we're more concerned about the planes, just simply use a 4 millimeter hole. And I'm going to use this as an extrude so I can show you what building blocks can and setting up your sketch can actually help you to become more efficient as well. So clicking on that top surface and going through to extrude, what I want to do is I want to put some center lines in. So I'm going to have some center lines, Control Z, some center lines in free space around there and about there. So what they're going to be, if I use my dimension tool, they're going to be 10 millimeters either side. and that line, that line, that one. So that's 10 millimeters as well. And then what we've got is we're going to have one about there, and one there. So what they're going to be is, so from that back edge that we used as a reference before, that's going to be 10 millimeters. That line to that line is also going to be 10 millimeters. And then that one to that one will also be 10 millimeters. So what I've done there is, if I bring the drawing back on, I've essentially got my two center lines running down this way, 10 millimeters either side of the main center. And then from this back reference edge, I've got other center lines at 10 millimeters spaced out. So why this becomes important, I can do the actual geometry I want to extrude super quickly. So if I pick those 4 locations that we want and make sure they're all equal to each other and center click out, and then come through and make that to be 4 millimeters, then go OK. I can now then use my depth tool, and you can either click the little purple arrow you can see on the screen through here, or just simply click this one. So it'll basically eat away material. I want those to be 10 millimeters in depth, and go OK, and you're done. And then if we turn all of this sort of stuff off, and then you'd be ready to take and turn the center spin off as well, then you'd be ready to take your screenshot of that particular item. So hopefully this video has given you a bit of an appreciation of how to model in terms of using planes to make your life a little bit easier. Again, we're trying to teach you the skills here in becoming an efficient modeler within CAD. You certainly could have gone through and used your center plane and drawn that sort of triangular shape, used the round tool and the like, and then added a couple of extra extrudes to try and achieve the same result. It would have been fairly clunky though, I hope you'll agree. So yeah, certainly using planes is something that you should be trying to do just to become a little bit more efficient. If you do run into any of the problems with your modeling with Datum planes exercises, please reach out to either myself or one of the computer lab demonstrators where we'll be more than happy to help you. So looking forward to watching everyone starting to model with Datum planes within CREO, and we'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for listening.